Hello, and welcome to another episode of Just Jesus. Well, as one of my younger sisters likes to tell me every now and then, I'm a little slow. I get there eventually, but sometimes it takes me longer than most people. And I think there's probably some truth to that. But several years, well, many years ago, I don't know how long it's been, I had kind of an epiphany, if you will, an awakening. Probably just got smarter, but I was putting something together, and I don't remember what it was, but I was putting something together and I was having a hard time getting it to go together because I was trying to put it together the way I thought it should go together. And it finally dawned on me that the people who made whatever I was trying to put together probably understood a lot better than I did how it worked and how it should go together. And perhaps I should just follow the instructions. Now, that's not to say that all instructions are perfect because they're not, but the concept, the principle that the people who made it probably know how it works and probably know how it should go together. They know that a whole lot better than I do. And if I would just follow the instructions, it might be a little bit easier and less frustrating for me. And for the most part, I've tried to do that. And so when I buy something, a piece of furniture from IKEA, if you will, or some other place, and it has instructions, I get out the instructions and I follow them as best I can. When I want to put oil in my car, I get out the manual and read the manual about where the dipstick is and how to measure the oil level and where you put the oil in and what kind of oil to put in there. And again, it has just made life somewhat easier and less frustrating for me. And it dawned on me one day that a lot of my frustrations in life could probably be eliminated if I did what my creator told me to do. Because after all, he's the one who made me. And he knows a whole lot better than I do how I behave and how I act and how I should behave. And at the end of what we call the Sermon on the Mount, recorded in Matthew chapter 7, Jesus tells this one more story. And he says, "Everyone then who hears these words of mine and does them will be like a wise man who built his house on the rock. And the rain fell, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on that house, but it did not fall, because it had been founded on the rock." The reason the house stood during the storm was because it was built upon the foundation of the rock. And that's what Jesus says about those people who do what he tells them to do. Everyone then who hears these words of mine and does them will be like the man who built his house on the rock. And I realize, at least in my case, perhaps yours as well, that's a whole lot easier said than done. And just as I did years ago when I tried to put something together the way I think it ought to go together, and it just resulted in frustration and sometimes broken parts, and I had to go back and buy a new one, instead of just following the instructions. And life's the same way. There have been a lot of times in my life when I've tried to do things the way I think they ought to be done and the way it ought to be. And it has just led to frustration and anger and a whole lot of problems. When a lot of that could have been solved if I'd just done what Jesus said to do. For those of us who may listen to what Jesus has to say and concluded that we've got a better way to do it, Jesus talks about those individuals when he says, "And everyone who hears these words of mine and does not do them will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. And the rain fell, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat against that house, and it fell. And great was the fall of it." So let me encourage all of us, and I have to be reminded of this from time to time myself. We were created by God in His image. He knows us. He knows what we ought to do. And He has, if you will, given us a book with all kinds of knowledge and wisdom in it about how He expects us to behave. And if we behave the way that God wants us to behave, and if we do what we were created to do, those good works that the Apostle Paul writes about in his letter to the Ephesians, it probably won't eliminate all the frustrations in life. But one thing that it will do, it will give us a strong foundation so that when the storms and the trials and the tribulations of life come, and they will come, we will be able to stand because our foundation is built upon Jesus and what He has told us to do. Well, I pray that you'll have a great day.